it's the arrogance. It's the ego, man. It's like, it's a great disconnect. It's the thing that keeps us from connecting. And when I'm not connecting, I mean, I'm no different than any other organic thing on this earth, that if I am not connected to the source of energy, I wilt away and die, whether it be water, sunlight, or, the transaction of love, which in the human experience, love is extremely important to transmit and receive. It's evolutionary. And so I'm kind of in this place of like trying to get out of my own way and trying to be a better human being on a day-to-day basis. And so when I'm focusing on being a good human, then I'm trusting that all the things I can't control are going to work out somehow.
That was Ryan Bathgate again. Of course, he's back. We're going to be doing weekly, or at least trying to do weekly episodes. I mean, both of us have busy lives. Getting together can be a challenge sometimes, but Ryan Bathgate, if you've been paying attention to the platform this far, he used to co-host with me on a weekly basis. Since his most recent troubles, he's had to prioritize his life, his family, and his recovery. So whether or not we get together every single week might not be a thing, but we're going to do our best. Hey, if you enjoy our content, I get you to do me a favor: like, comment, share. All those interactions, hit the subscribe button, depending on what platform you're on. That is how you support us in doing what we're doing and trying to spread the message. So I really do appreciate every single one of those interactions. And of course, the title sponsor for today's episode is FAR Canada. That's Families for Addiction Recovery. They offer online groups for the loved ones of people who suffer an addiction. They also offer a peer-to-peer support system. And as well, of course, they have their phone line that you can call during the day. You can learn more at farcanada.org. And in the meantime, enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. Watchers, listeners, supporters of all kinds. Welcome to another episode of the Ash is Awesome podcast. I'm in Krabi, Thailand, and of course, halfway around the world is my good friend and co-host, back from the dead, if you will, Ryan Bathgate. How you doing today, Ryan?
I'm good. Back from the dead, like the phoenix rises.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I mean, just carrying a lot of weight still, but like. I'm well, I've had a couple things happen. Like I had to do a emergency EGD. Do you know what that is?
No. Is that the stickers all over your face kind of thing?
No. It's okay. They put a camera in my stomach.
Oh.
And esophagus. Anyways, so
yeah,
I took samples for the oncologist for biopsy.
Oh, that's heavy.
So I went in and did some blood work, and like on the Friday, I think, and then on Sunday I got an email saying you got to get to the hospital for Thursday. I had to do the whole clear your bowels treatment, and they didn't end up doing the colonoscopy section, so I got to go back and do that.
I bet you regret that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess my medications, blood thinners or something. Like I'm on a blood pressure medication. Yeah. Anyways, so that was, again, it's like all these things that you just can't do. They're not my control, and so I'm really in this place of like, I just keep calling it getting in the wheelbarrow. And
explain that. I've never heard that.
Well, I heard a speaker years ago talk about the difference between faith and trust, so this guy explains that his sponsor said to him, like, he said, those are the same thing, are they? And he's like, well, no. He's like, if you're at a circus and you saw this guy with a wheelbarrow walking a tightrope, you'd have faith that he would get to the other side. He's probably done it 1,000 times, and he's probably a trained professional, and you have absolute faith that he'll be successful in his show. And then his sponsor's like, trust is getting in the wheelbarrow. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like,
I like that.
Big difference to sitting down there and watching this guy. Yeah, sure, he'll make it. Getting that wheelbarrow, you're really putting your trust. So, yeah, I mean, like I'm trying to. There's a lot of things happening in my life that I just have no control over. And the things that I do is we go back to that commitment, effort, environment, and perception, and like I'm sticking to that that idea to like on a daily basis in a very disciplined and dedicated way. And so
I want to say humble too. Humble, like, because for you that is right. Like,
my God,
yeah,
my
right.
God, it is like.
Yeah. I think for anybody it is. Just with you though, and we've talked a lot about how ego has impacted your life, right? So I think with you specifically, that humility isn't even kind of a bigger thing than it would be for a lot of people anyway, right?
Well, there's a lesson there, and the lesson is you can't outrun humility. Yeah. If you don't embrace it, you can't escape it. And the longer you fight it and try to run from it, the harder it smacks you in the face.
Fair enough.
And, so I did 5-6 years of avoiding humility. Yeah. And, I got what I got.
Guys, just a quick break to mention one of our other sponsors that makes this all possible, and that's the Yatra Trauma Center here in Krabi, Thailand, where I reside. I started my healing journey there when I moved to Thailand 7 months ago now. Completely changed my life with their residential treatment program. They treat trauma. They do it very, very, very well. And you can learn more at a2apodcast.com/trauma, where you'll find a whole list of episodes that Mike Miller, the head clinician, has guested on here on the podcast and discussed the different modalities of therapy there and just the whole entire experience. So check them out, and back to the show.
And, I don't, to say I don't regret is difficult. I don't, I have trust, and I'm trying to exercise that everything works out the way it's supposed to, probably better than I can imagine. That's been my history. That's been my story time and time again. And it is my, my own, it's my arrogance. It's my, those, my intelligence working against me, things like that. But ultimately it's the arrogance. It's the ego, man. It's like, it's the great disconnect, as Chuck Z says in A New Pair of Glasses. It's the thing that keeps us from connecting. And when I'm not connecting, I mean, I'm no different than any other organic thing on this earth. That if I am not connected to a source of energy, I wilt away and die. Whether it be water, sunlight, or the transaction of love, which in the human experience, love is extremely important to transmit and receive. It's evolutionary, and so I'm kind of in this place of like trying to get out of my own way and trying to be a better human being on a day-to-day basis. And that so when I'm focusing on being a good human, then I'm trusting that all the things I can't control are going to work out somehow. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's kind of karma police. Like, if I'm doing shitty things, I get shitty results. And so I was doing shitty things, and I got some really shitty results. Now, let me rephrase that. I was doing some really shitty things, and I got some really shitty results. And I think it's, based on my experience and what I've seen, they seem to be of equal distribution. And so, like, today it's looking like a ton of self-care. I guess, I don't even want to tell you what I'm doing because I am, but it is just like so opposite to pre-March 3rd, and that date is significant because that is my newest sobriety date, one of many. And like, so there's one I know how to achieve long-term sobriety, and I only know one way to do it, unfortunately. That way I'm not particularly fond of, and that means meeting a day, checking in with somebody.
That perspective, I mean, fortunately you know a way, right? Unfortunately, it's the only way. Fortunately, you do know a way. So
it is. And you're right. You're right. I'm being quite entitled in that. I just have some shame around like being at this for 25 years and having 3 days, I think, today. There's, to me, it's like, yeah, man, like, why can't I get this? To me, it's like that year 8 is a big one. That's when it starts traditionally. So the first time I relapsed in year 8. Second time, it was year 10, but it took that time. That, you know, it's about year 8 that I turned my back on focusing on recovery, and myself included. Like, and I started to like better then. Like, I bettered than my way right into destruction. You know, and the reality is like that the amount of arrogance that I have is directly proportionate to the lack of self-worth I have. And so they go, you know what I mean? Like, when that arrogance is level, my self-worth is level. When my self-worth is high, I'm pretty humble. And
that's funny. It makes me think. You've talked about it quite a bit, but the first time that it really hit me, and it, you know, because you know we've talked about a lot of things, so to try and absorb everything you have said in past episodes, it's a lot, right? Mike Miller, who, by the way, today 21 years. Congratulations
Mike,
to you, Mike.
Congrats.
Right?
Horns up, buddy.
Yeah. So he couldn't make a recording time or something that we had agreed. I don't even remember what the detail was. And when we did come on and record hours or days later, whatever it was, I'd mentioned to him how much I appreciated how quick he was to say, "Hey, I can't do this. I'm really sorry," whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, it wasn't a big deal because whatever, I'm sitting at my desk working anyway, so it's like, you know, no harm, no foul. But for him, he explained it in that do what you say what you do. It's one of those values to him that is extremely important. Mm-hmm. And then he went on to explain, and this is the point I'm getting to, that when you live outside your values, slowly your self-worth starts to strip away.
100%.
Right? And so I think that's a direct correlation to what you're talking about here. Right? Like, you start living outside, you know, your self-worth goes away, and now your ego has to come up to protect you. And then here we are.
It's like, right? When I, you know, like when Ray said, like, when did you become a liar? You know, like that should have been a huge flag, because honesty is something that has been a staple in my character for a long time. And so, like, when that one's showing up, we know integrity's corroded. We know self-worth is corroded. Self-esteem is corroded. My ability to hold space is probably corroded. Compassion, access to empathy, like, you know, all the things that I identify as, you know, I always say your values are your identity. And, you know, I stepped outside of my values for a long time. And my identity now is fucking newcomer again. You know?
And I shouldn't even make that noise, but it's you and I talking, and so it's a different thing, right?
Man.
But
right. Like, I'm in a meeting and I'm like, I've been at this for 25 years and I got 93 days, and everyone claps. I'm like, no, you're not picking up what I'm putting down here. Like, like it's borderline pathetic. But, you know, on the other side of that is like, fuck, dude,
it's really not, though, right? It's that 93 days is what's, you know.
So, like, if you came and told me, hey, I got 93 days, I'm like, good for you, dude. Like, fuck, it's great.
You know, somebody once said to me, if we treated everybody like we treat our best friend, you know, who was that?
Must have been pretty good looking, dude.
He's fucking full of himself, I'll tell you that much, right?
Yeah. Wise though. Yeah. No, and like, to be honest with you, like, I was just actually talking to I was talking to Stacy and I talk to him a lot now. He's been super helpful and supportive and in my corner. He's always been like that with me. And so I was talking to him, and he was like, honestly, dude, like, you need to keep counseling yourself, keep doing what you do, keep following your own advice, like, because it, you know, like, this is the stuff, because I'm talking about, like, fucking struggling with codependency and struggling with you know, grief and loss, and, like, you know, like, a lot of shit ton of shame, dude. Like, it is it's so sticky and gross, and it sticks all over everything. And, like, you know, every time I've done this before, it's just been me, and I've had nothing, you know, and I go and I walk into a meeting or go to treatment, and I put together these stretches of sobriety, and, like, I don't do it like I don't get sober for a week, relapse for a day, get sober for 2 weeks, and that's not how I do it. I go multiple years and then multiple years. You know what I mean? And, like, so, like, to not drink's not that tough for me. I'm not a chronic alcoholic. It's called an acute alcoholic, which means more insidious it happens outside of awareness. It tells you things like, you're fine. There's no consequence. You didn't beat anyone up this time. You didn't go do coke. You didn't, you know what I mean? Like that stuff. But really what's happening outside of that is like the complete corrosion. It's a Trojan horse, man. Like it just takes all those intrinsic resources that I was talking about, the values, and just starts eating away at them slowly, until like, and then, and the fucking lies that you tell yourself, like thinking things are okay. Like, like retrospect is just, it just shows the whole thing all the way along, all the flags, like all, and just arrogantly blind.
I want to speak to something. Because I think, obviously, I knew that you weren't completely sober. You told me a time or two that you had a beer now and again. Obviously, I didn't understand the scope of the problem.
Yeah,
and nobody did. So I'm not surprised by that.
No.
However, I will say, this is interesting, and I'm guessing that things excel, right? Like anything else, when it goes, the last month was a hell of a lot worse than the first month, and that was, somewhere in between that was the middle months, and you know what I mean. So, in the last few months leading up to March 3rd, I did see a shift in character, with the benefit of hindsight, of course, right?
Yeah.
But I did see a great shift in character there, and it's funny. I've been thinking about that quite a bit, and not really like, because you are on my mind quite a bit, but how that acceleration happens all of a sudden, right? So I'm sure over years that everything that you're talking about right now, it happens. But when it all, the compounding, decomposition, if you want to call it that, right? When it catches up,
we'll call it the Big Bang. Is what it was.
Okay.
Because it was a life-changing event, man. Like in the worst possible way, but maybe the best thing to ever happen to me. I don't know. By the
time anybody else notices it, that's when it's a runaway train, right? Like you notice it long before, maybe not. But by the time somebody else says to you, bro, right? Like by that point, things are getting pretty bad.
Things were, the corrosion, like I said, the corrosion started 2018.
Yeah.
When it was just like, I wasn't doing, I had assumed that my job was enough for, they talk about step 12, and like I'm in that world right now, so I'm going to be speaking in that because that's where I am, and that's the only way I know how to get sober and stay sober is to follow these principles. And like step 12 and doing this work are not the same thing. If I get paid, it's not the same thing. When I do step work, I get something out of that. When I do work, I give something. Something is taken from me. You know what I mean? And so that compounds. And like I didn't know that until this happened. And I look back and go, like, how come that wasn't enough? Like, why wasn't I was working fucking 16-hour days. Like, I'm helping people. And why am I depleted? What, you know what I mean? And like when I think about the start of my burnout happened right when I relapsed. Like right, and I'm calling it that now because that's what I consider it, but I didn't at the time. I just figured it out, I thought, and I told myself that. But fuck, come on, like 1 in a million, right? 1 in a million. That's me. Unique until
it's not funny, but it's
no, and
funny.
it is like they call it like my mom. My mom coins the term terminal uniqueness, and she heard that in meetings years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, she was like, why does he call himself Chuck? And she was talking about like, she used to knit. Remember she made like MC Hammer pants or something for everyone.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think some toques or something. Or she was just she remembers you always asking for like pants and toques and shit like that. So, so she had a good memory about you and Michael at our house. Coming camping with us. I remember my dad, we were camping and my dad was like, holy shit, you got bigger feet than I do, and you're like fucking 12 or 11 or something like that.
Right. Out at Eagle Lake, right?
Out at Eagle Lake, yeah, it was Eagle Lake.
Yeah. Which is funny because we end up moving 5 minutes from there, a couple years down the road from that, right?
So that must have been mid 80s then, yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Yeah, most certainly was, right? So, not to get too far off topic, but I still remember one of the most vivid memories I have outside of the giant fucking black dildo which was not his mom's. Let's make that clear right now. That story has got nothing to do with Ryan's mom. So let's just like that, really, like, you know. Anyway,
let's make that clear. Yeah,
but it was giants. It was giants, right?
And,
But outside of that is us trying to go swimming at the wave pool, and your mom digging through the couch for change. To try and muster up enough, whether it was gas money or bus fare or you know, admission to the swimming pool money, but for all of us, right? She was like, I just remember that so clearly, so very, very clearly, right? You know,
it just kind of sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was one of the
But,
happier memories back then, right? Not you know, there's some other things that I remember too that were pretty fucking disturbing, but you know, from I remember like hiding in your basement and you know, oh geez, you know,
and like you know, like it's fun. It is funny because like you start to go through life and see that shit ain't normal. You know what I mean? Like, and so like, how do you develop as a child when your home isn't safe and the rest of the world isn't safe? You know, and like, so like for me, the first time I found something that was kind of like what I thought I was looking for, which is peace, was downing a bottle of Southern Comfort in behind 7-Eleven at 10 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and like,
right.
And that was like,
and that will forever impact you, right? Like forever. I mean,
well, I did because I never touched Southern Comfort again. I puked so much it was disgusting. Never touched it again in my life. Or amaretto.
I think that was the first hard liquor I ever tried too. By then we were out in Strathmore, but
yeah. So anyways, yeah, a little bit of squirrel there, but
yeah.
So where was I? Mom.
Terminal uniqueness.
Terminal uniqueness. Yeah, man. Like I am convinced that if I don't understand, it's not even about paying attention to my ego. It's about walking with humility, learning to become infused with humility or integrated with humility. Because like, as you saw, like my fucking ego is gonna kill me, man. And like right now, it's just like I am focusing on me and who I am, who I want to be. I have to like take this, you know, wreckage of the past and first of all own it. And I think that you know, it's important for me to be very transparent about the mistakes I've made and you know, like, and not, man, yeah, it's unbelievable at times for me what drugs and alcohol can do to me and how devastating. And I just like, substance use disorder is a circumference of devastation. Like it everything in its orbit is devastated. It's like a fucking nuclear bomb, dude. Like, and everyone that is close feels that. You know what I mean? And like you know, the greatest gift of all is survival. First of all, which I can't even promise based on my, you know, I have my own views, if you will, on a curiosity of what's next. But as long as I got kids, I'm gonna be here. You know,
focus for sure. Right?
Yeah, and really, like, that's is, you know, it's like I don't want to do a meeting a day. I don't want to do my step 4. You know, and it doesn't matter. Yeah, because like all I need to do is think about my 2 little girls, and I'm gone. Because that's all. That's, I mean, and that is, you know, thankfully, like some good things come out of this, and that is that I have an opportunity to become the person I want to be, and a lot of, and I've been that person to some degree. So I am going to be borrowing a lot of the tenets from previous sobriety stints, including living by my values. And so that's why, like, now the transparency and honesty is important, because that's part of my value system. Yes. And I just cannot shoulder secrets anymore, man. Like, not you know, I have enough with confidentiality, like, never mind my own shit. And I just, like, you know, I don't want to be dishonest. I don't want to live with that icky fucking gross feeling, you know. And like, I talk about alignment and rhythm, and I forgot what it fucking felt like. I could theorize it, and I can talk a good game. Like Dio, see one thing Dio said, and he's scraping me off the jail cell floor. It was like, dude, I gotta watch out for your your quick tongue. He said, like, I can't even imagine the shit you talk yourself into. Like, it's fucking believable. It's believable.
Yeah.
And and that's not a good. It's not a good trait, man. Like, it's
If
like
you're selling used cars, it's great, right?
but still,
yeah.
I mean, I am so prone to manipulation that I don't even know I'm fucking doing it.
Yeah.
And I talk quick and I think quick, and it's not doesn't. I'm not saying that it's better or worse. Like, I'm saying that I've always had to, as a survival technique, be quick. And with especially within the social tapestry of the lower middle class, like being optically Caucasian male, I experienced certainly a lot of I guess it was like the poor kid. I got the poor kid classism. You know what I mean? And like, and to be honest with you, growing up, everyone was great. My friends were great. People knew shit wasn't good. And nobody ever treated me poorly, but I fucking felt it. I felt like I was different. I felt like I didn't belong. I sure felt
there it is. There
poor.
It is. There it is, right there. The most common thing ever said on this show.
Well, addiction is loneliness, man. Like,
yeah.
That's where it thrives is
yeah.
And that's why we talk about, like, I believe in the power of the communities. I really do. I struggle with some of the bullshit that goes on in the drama, and I do my best to stay out of it, especially, like I said, 25 years later. I've seen enough to know that I'm not interested in the clicks, and I don't care about what you drive and the glittered fucking cleavage. Like, I don't care. What I do care is that I am committing to being the best possible father that I can be, and that's all. That's what matters to me. And like, all that other shit is all of it has become noise. Everything outside of that tenant right there has become noise. Obviously, I would like some things to work out, but again, man, like, I gotta give that away because I can't carry it on my own. Like, I can't. It's just so fucking heavy. All the shit I can't control, like, and I go there, like, I'm going fucking biopsy, dude.
Yeah. Right?
Like, what if I get
happen, right?
And my first thought is, oh, great, I'm gonna fucking die before I even get a chance to be a good dad.
Oof.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's where my brain goes. Yeah. And it's not the dying part; it's them. Like, I know what it's like to not have that dad around.
I'm going to ask you a very personal question, Ryan. One of the things, and I mean, I'll say this for benefit of the audience, but I think you'll know what I'm saying right away. But one of the things that so many people talk about with 12-step is the God thing,
mm-hmm.
and the higher power.
Yeah,
I know you can speak to that very much in a general way, but can I ask you specifically what that means for you, or is that something that's personal?
Well, it's absolutely personal.
Too
without
personal,
a doubt. And I don't think it's too personal. I mean, I'm not the only human being out there or in recovery that is, evidence-based. Like, there's a chapter in the big book called We Agnostics. Like, they knew about people that don't believe in your. I mean, they have secular steps and traditions, and like, so. But personally, like, I'm really simple with it, to be honest with you. Like, I believe I don't know what's beyond the galaxy, and like, I do think that it is quite interesting, the design of the Earth being the exact distance away from the sun that we can
and Mars
light.
and Jupiter and
just
right, like.
But I mean,
it's crazy.
Like, even when the Earth turns and we have winter. People die because of that little shift, because it's so fucking cold. This summer, it's so hot. Could you imagine being just like 4 feet closer? Like,
right?
Fucking people you cooked up.
It is quite remarkable, right?
It is.
And stop and think about that. And
if you look at like, you know, I watched this documentary about Earth, and it was created with a collision, the Big Bang, you know, and of asteroids, and then there's a moon in Jupiter that shoots like geysers of water out in the solar system, and so, anyways, that's all. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that in that documentary, it said that they believe that Mars was cooked by a solar flare from the sun. Literally hit Mars and evaporated everything. They have evidence of riverbeds, but they have no evidence of any still water, and that's why they can't prove that there was life there. But there is evidence of riverbeds, so that's interesting. Yeah. Well, it's also interesting because Mars is farther away than Earth.
I was just thinking that, right? So that's a timing thing, is all that is, right? Yep. where you were on the orbit at the time, right? You know,
exactly, and so like it's a theory. Like everything, but I mean, it's just like, so by design, like, look at a fucking spider web, look at a butterfly wing, like, I believe in that. I believe in that. That there's just like the organic world is just absolutely amazing and beautiful, and like there's something to me, there's something divine about it. And when I talk about spirituality, I'm really talking about connection and connectability. And so when I talk about, you know, if I consider myself spiritual, I'm talking about vulnerability. And I'm talking about, you know, access to curiosity and joy and peace and love and all that beautiful stuff, you know, like, and like sobriety's role is an access point. You know, without it, I can't access those things, which I've proven to myself time and time again. And God damn, if I find another fucking excuse to pick up a drink, because I just can't fathom another excuse. But, you know, like they say, cunning, baffling, powerful, and I hate quoting that shit, but man, look at how insidious.
I often say the demons, and you know I'm not a religious person either. So literally, when I say demons, right, but the demons of addiction are cunning and relentless.
And honestly, it is such a, like, when you think about how much biochemically alcohol in my system changes who I am, it's unreal. Like my mom, she can see a relapse coming from a mile away with me because I'm a completely different human being. You know what I mean? And like, it is like, dude, I thought neural loop theory was going to let me drink safely. Like, that's ridiculous. Ridiculous. I'm going to rewire my fucking brain based on neural loop theory, which is great. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. It's not like I don't believe in behavior development, but like I thought I was going to be able to unfuse the cocaine circuit with the alcohol circuit, which like what? Why would
so you use the thing that proves addiction as a justification to go back to addiction?
Totally. Wow.
Interesting.
The worst part. No, the worst part is I did that while putting my daughter at the time and Marina at risk. Selfish, self-centered to the core. Like, I can't think of more of a selfish act, you know, and
for what? Really, like, even in that moment when you talked about in our comeback episode, when you picked up that beer and went, "You're going to fuck this up."
Yeah.
For what? Like, at the time, what is the risk reward? All the things. What's the reward from that?
Well, at the time, I had built beautiful life in sobriety.
Yeah. Like, so that's the risk. What's the reward? Right? Like, what does our brain make us think is the reward from when you go from I'm going to fuck this up to cracking that beer? Right? Like, what does our brain do there? That's a curious thing, right? Like,
you know, this is what I mean, that when you have significant time, relapse takes work.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It eats away at you. So by the time I picked that thing up, I'd already made my decision.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's like walking to the fucking crack house with $20 and going, "Why am I doing this?" You know, like, I need to turn around, stop walking there, and do I stop? No. You know what I mean. So like, it's just that biochemistry is already in an offset balance. And so, like, substance use disorder, it takes treatment. that treatment is significant to be practiced over time and further developed through autodidactic or you know that word, self-taught. Best way to put that. You know, through discovery, like, you know, like I got into phenomenology and I got into existentialism and I got into all these things in sobriety, you know, and because I knew that I needed more. Now, what happened is my ego and every compliment, you know, and I don't do well with compliments, but what my ego does. And so that's an interesting thing, that I'm uncomfortable with a compliment, but my ego fucking soaks that shit up.
Yeah, it does.
You know, and like, and I'll, you know, thanks, Ryan, you really helped me out. I'll be like, no, you did the work. My ego's like, nah, Ryan, it was you.
Yeah. It was all you.
It was all you.
He barely showed up for that.
That guy's
was
fucked without you. The guy's fucked without you. You know what I mean? Like, and like that's happening outside of awareness. So like, when we talk about Gadamer's levels of horizons of understanding, there are different levels of reality. Just, you know, we expand them as we go. And what happened with me is I was expanding, and all of a sudden, it was like, it just like cornered off everything important to me, and just became about one little thing.
It sounds to me like you went with an as, and instead of an as well as. Sure, you needed more phenomenology, all the things.
Oh yeah,
right. But you didn't need to get rid of, right? Like you could have piled those on top of your recovery instead of replacing your recovery.
No. I didn't go far enough.
Okay.
I needed therapy. I needed my support network. I needed to develop and enforce my support network. I needed consistency. I needed accountability, and I get those things now through having a home group. You know, going to meetings, doing the step work, talking the talk, doing the things I need to do. You know, like part of that's you know, some of the stuff I like meditation and the gym. I like, you know, I find it very cathartic, if you will. It's a very special place for me and my thoughts and my being. And so like, you know, it's become much more than just this physical activity, but it's become something that I get in touch with my body through. So it's a psychosomatic connection so I do that on a daily basis. And I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, man. Like, I don't like the way I feel every day, and so I ask whatever it is that's out there to help me with that, help me be better, because I mean, honestly, it's my ego that told me that prayer's stupid. You know what I mean? And I don't even consider it prayer. It's just conscious contact with whatever it is that I believe in, which I don't even really know. But I just know, like, I think about, like I said, in that jail cell, I talked to my sister, like, and you know, and that is meaningful to me.
Form of prayer for sure.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And like, and so like, and now it's become so much simpler in that, just like, just want my family to be safe. You know, I want them to be okay, and and I want to be the best version of myself for them, and I'd like to do that until I stop breathing, whenever that might be. You know, and so like, and you know, like, it's fucking the hard part is just, well, the hard part's the emotions. Like, I mean, you know, I'm right in smack dab in the middle of post-acute withdrawal. I've kind of figured it to be about probably 7 to 9 months of post-acute withdrawal, just based on maximum being 18 if I was drinking every day for 30 years, you know, like.
Explain the term post-acute withdrawal.
Pause.
But explain for the layperson, right, what it means from a.
It's a process of healing, neurological healing in your brain that you know, when we add and become dependent on substances, our brain chemistry shifts, as we know, and you know, they talk about this in the disease model. Like, our brain chemistry alters, and it takes that amount of time for it to return. Now, a lot of our, like, especially alcohol, where it's, you know, GABA, it attacks the GABA center, which is directly correlated to the limbic system. So it attacks memory and emotion. So I'm a blackout guy. That's my limbic system being completely shut down by alcohol. You know what I mean? And when I'm fucking angry, violent guy. that is directly limbic, and also fight or flight. Like, so, that the limbic system, when it starts to repair itself, it's extremely uncomfortable, and everything is like my sensitivity levels. I'm already a highly sensitive person, and it goes way above that. And so, like, the ups and downs are just like fucking circus, man. Like, and I'm just like, it's either anxiety or it's sadness, or I can't. I'm not at a place of very many good days right now. But the gold is in the cultivation of suffering, which
So
every
the reason that I asked you to explain that, Ryan, and before we go into another tangent there, is that when people hear withdrawal, I think, well, at least for myself, I should speak to what everybody else thinks, but I think right away they think physical withdrawals. They think those things, right? And I guess in a sense that is a physical withdrawal. It's just happening in your brain, which but it's not what we consider physical withdrawals, like you would from opiates or even alcohol, right? Where
no, and it's
or benzos or whatever, but
like they kind of have their own defining characteristics relative to withdrawal symptoms. Like cocaine, for example, its power is in the neurological. It's very
right.
like thought centered, and like and I'll have obsession 9 months into sobriety, all of a sudden, just out of nowhere. Whereas like heroin is much more somatic, where you're physically ill. You know what I mean? Or opiates for that. And so is benzos.
And neither is more powerful than the other, I would think. Right?
No, they're just, like I said, they're just different.
Just different.
They're both really powerful. All of it.
What it makes me think about is, if you go back a year, if you go back to episode 30, how often I cried, how often, like, my life was a roller coaster. Like, I'm emotional. I won't say wrecked, but I was a much more emotional person than I am right now.
Yeah, and
and not in a negative or in a better way, but certainly there was more fluctuation in my, in the way that I operated day to day. And until this very moment, I never put that connection together.
Well, and yours would be a lot longer, right?
Yeah.
Because your usage was a lot longer. So, I'm talking about 5 years, and really acutely about, 1.5, 2 years. So I'm going through it in, month 3, which is about right. Where typically, if you're 18 months, it's like month 5 to 9 is a fucking nightmare. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm hitting,
checks out.
Yeah, like I'm hitting a mark, those markers, and I'm aware, but I'm like, fuck God, like.
But being aware, that's an interesting premise right there. Being aware doesn't take away from it. And I think it's, if you understand something, it makes it better. Maybe it does, but maybe in some cases it makes it worse, because you know what's happening and it's still fucking happening, right? You can't stop it. Right?
I'm very comforted by the knowledge I have, to be honest with you. Like, I know this is a feeling, and it's going to change, and it's going to pass. And everything I'm going through is going, as long as I do the right thing, everything was going to work out in the favor of my goals. And that's that faith becoming trust. That's where I need to like let go. But like, it's hard when your emotions aren't rational. So I'll be in this space of like fucking deep struggle or depression or what, anxiety or whatever, and I know I'm telling myself, like, just do the actions you need to do, and this will pass. And so, like, everything right now is action oriented. Everything I'm doing has to be about action, and it doesn't matter what I think or feel. It's what I do. It's making sure, like, if I say I'm going to be somewhere, the action is being there on time. Integrity is important. If I'm asked a difficult question, and I'm fearing that you're going to reject me with a response, I have to face that fear and be honest, because honesty is part of my values. You know what I mean? And these are the things that I was not following, because my arrogance, it does its job really well, and with me especially well. And the problem is I give control up. And that's what happened, is I turned my back on a version of myself that I really liked. And And I used that more, even worse, is I used it to trick people and manipulate. And that's just, I have some fucking shame around that, boy. And I hate admitting that I do that. I don't, I don't always feel like a good fucking guy. Well, and
I think we've talked about this in our most recent recording too, Ryan. The fact that you don't feel like a good fucking guy because of what happened while you were using kind of speaks to the fact that you are a good guy, right? And it speaks to the fact that it wasn't you, right? Mike talks about that one quite a bit, and it's one of the things that I really latch onto and try to remind people of when I hear them say, when they talk about the shame.
Yeah, that's fair. However, it does not excuse responsibility.
No, it doesn't. No, it does not ever, right?
Yeah,
but and that lends itself more. That point lends itself more to what I'm saying. In that, okay, now I know what I did. I feel really shitty about it. I know I'm not a bad person. I need to go back and make that right, or I need the amends, if you want to call it that, or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah, and right? I mean, I wasn't going to do the steps, to be honest with you. Like, I arroganced it, like another set of steps, like, and I talked to Diego about it, and he was like, "Wow, like it's robotic. How was your last set of steps?" And I was like, "Robotic." And the step before that, robotic, and like, in 25 years, you do a lot of sets of steps. You know what I mean? Like, but I was thinking about. I mean, I'm driving along, and I'm like, no, you know what? Like, I'm thinking about all the amends, all the mistakes, all the people I hurt, and I'm like, I can't. I will not stay sober if I don't.
Shame, that wet blanket, that is shame. That to take one of your terms, right?
Yeah, and it's the only Brene Brown talks about shame is like, it needs secrecy, it needs dishonesty, and what's the other thing? Another element.
Silence.
Silence.
Yeah. See, I was paying attention. Paying attention.
Good job. And so I'm the only way I know how to combat that is to take away the elements necessary for shame to thrive. That's why I listened to the podcast the next day. It was released at the gym, and I nearly threw up. Like, I was I didn't realize how candid I was about my struggles, and like, it's
is that because of the vulnerability or because of the shame that you felt that way?
You know what? I think it's a shame. I just like, dude, like,
I hope so, because if not, the vulnerability is that's an ego thing, right? So if it's a shame, then it's
it's just like the whole. I told the whole world how shitty I am.
Yeah,
like,
you know what I mean? World, some shitty stuff that happened that you did, and and in the process, the world got to see how shitty of a person you're not, right? And if you want to, and I know it's easy for me to say that. It's so much harder for somebody to feel it, whether it's you or anybody else, right?
Especially it's in it, like, I'm in consequence every day of that happening, like, and to be honest with you, like, I at some level I will be for the rest of my life. I will never be the same, and in that consequence, I need to make an asset, and so like right now I'm in a really heavy part of it. And it's fucking lonely, and fuck, I miss my girls, man. Like, I miss them like I never thought I could miss anything or feel about anything. And I miss my life. Like, just fucking Icarus, man. Like, just had to fly too close to the sun. And it's a fucking. I've always been like that. I've always got to push that thing. I always got to see how far I can take it. Like, when am I going to learn? And that's the hard part. It's just like, like, you think you fucking know something, and it ends up almost killing you. Like, and the reality is it's what I did. I mean, talk about manipulation. I did this to myself. I talked myself out of good living. and it was pure, and like at that point, like me and Marina met, man, my life was happening, like I was a new counselor and excited about life, and then, I think I met her at 4 or 5 years sobriety, and luckily she got to experience some years of sobriety, but like we're all on a process of healing from the damage that I've done, and I like to like really put an emphasis on what I've done, because while all anyone else has done is tried to love me. That's all I did, and really hard, and so like I need to look at this, like, why do I not deserve love? Like, that's a real fucking question that I need to look at. Where does that come from? And going through therapy, and I'm doing a lot of that right now, and I'm getting some answers. Like, there's some stuff that is really stale, really old, that is ultimately, it impacts my life every fucking day and has my entire life. Like, the reason I push it is because I don't deserve that feeling, that and it's so, how do we define shame? Not enough. Like, it's in the umbrella. Like, I don't deserve love. I don't deserve happiness. I don't deserve peace. I don't deserve freedom. Like, I don't deserve help.
That's the big one there.
And it's fuck. There's those I wish I could have. Like, I wish I would have just said, fuck, I need help, to anybody. I wish it didn't have to. But honestly, like, even there, I can't get into the details, but it didn't hit that I was an alcoholic and an addict or a substance use disorder, even in until like day 2 of that jail cell. Like, I was still like thinking that I don't know, like, fuck, wasn't thinking. Let's be honest. I've been given the gift of alignment and reprise, and to use a quote from my psychiatrist, this is a redemption story, and that's what it has to be. And I just, like, I the inability to ask for help is a really serious fucking problem. And I'm not the only person that has gone through this. And like, there's people out there all over that have built themselves up to something that they can't put a hand out. And all I can say is the outcome is not fucking worth it. Whatever you're thinking, like, just, the people I have in my corner want the best for me. And I've robbed them the ability to help me by being so fucking arrogant. I don't want to regret things, but I am. It's a regret. I really wish I would have just went to Marina and said, "Fuck, I need help. I have a problem." Like, I really, if I could turn back time, but I don't have that power. I don't. The only power I have is commitment and effort.
Perception
and environment, like, somewhat, but like, the perception is, and I struggle. Like, I'm constantly trying to take my own advice on a daily basis. Like, I am in, Ryan, turn this fear into curiosity. What could it look like? Like, let's be in that space. Let's shift the lens. And I'm put to work with my own theories. Like, talk about humbling. Like, I'm the one that needs to test out my own shit in a healthy way, other than convincing myself I'm safe to drink for some fucking reason. Like, why would I want to do that anyway?
Right.
You know how
and
awful
I guess
it
that
is?
was my question earlier, right? It's like, to gain what? Right? Like, what to what?
You know, and I heard Gabor Mate say once. I went to this panel and watched Alfred Langel, Bruce Alexander, and Gabor Mate, which is like a superstar panel. I don't know if you know who those guys are, but
I know two of the three anyway. Yeah.
Alfred Langel's like probably the leading existentialist in the world right now that's alive still.
Okay.
And he lives in Vienna, like super existentialist too. And then Bruce Alexander's rap part. So
of course. Right.
And Gabor Mate says that like he believes that the brain can fix itself, and like it's possible for people to drink again. He was saying this in the panel, and he's like, "But why would anyone take that chance?"
Yeah.
And I heard that in 2013, and still didn't. It didn't. It was like nothing there. Like,
so in an instance like that, do you hang on to the first part of the sentence and forget the second part? Is that what that is? Right?
I mean, my ability
for an addict brain. Oh, it is. People can do that. You're not even going to pay attention to anything after the comma, right? The but doesn't even exist, right? Like, it's just like,
I just heard. Yeah. You can drink safely. Go ahead.
Yeah,
here.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. As a matter of fact, you should test this out. And make sure that you. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
For the benefit of the people. Right. Yeah.
Bar in every corner. Like. Yeah. I know. Yeah. So like. Yeah, man, it's a fucking devastating time in my life, to be honest. This is the hardest part I've ever gone through in my life. This is the bottomest bottom, and like, to be honest with you, dude, like, I'm not a fan of the fucking let them hit bottom and bottom. We're not in that day and age that's to me that's an acceptable answer. Yeah, but I wasn't going to stop.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you.
Well, and I think, and here's the thing with that, and it's a conversation I had just hours ago with a very good friend back in Calgary who is struggling because her husband is an alcoholic and still drinking, and making her feel all sorts of ways in that process. But we were talking, and she's talking about the anger, and she'd listened to a podcast. She sent it to me. I had to turn it off, man. I was just like, this woman is just.
What do you mean?
Of course, addiction's a choice. If you put two twins together, I was just like, I'm listening to her, and she's just feeding this feeding frenzy. Like, it's just like, what are you doing? You're fueling fire. She's advising specifically women in this one to be okay with, making the choice to leave if that's what's right for you. And her advice was gold. It was absolutely okay. But her justification was for it. He chose this. He did this. I was like, what the where? Okay, or science. We could go with science on this too, right?
Yeah.
But then, and she said it fuels the thing within me. I said, that's what she's doing. She's doing that to bring people to her side of things. Her advice is good. She says, in my mind, you are the only person that can choose to treat your disease until you lose capacity. But right up until the moment right up until the moment you lose capacity to be a functioning person, and there's an argument to be made there for mandated treatment, right up until that moment, you're it. You're the only person that can choose. So whatever your rock bottom is, whatever, right? But you can't, she's not capable of curing him. She's just not. Right? Like, he has to be the one to choose that treatment, and whether that treatment's a 12-step or smart recovery capital or whatever.
I do agree, but I also know what it's like to feel like you don't have that choice, to be in obsession. And you're right. It's perceptual, like, And so I heard it said years ago. My old home group in Toronto. This guy used to say, relative to the disease and all that, he's like, addiction is a perception disorder. And now I'm like, 20 years later or whatever it is. And when I think about that, perception being in my locus of control, it is a perception. I was looking through a substance use disorder set of glasses. And so when I'm in that state, it's almost like you said, demonic. Like it's like a conjuring or something, man. Like it's a completely different entity within me that is operating, and for years in a way that is completely destructive to my life. You know, and like everything healthy just falls out the bottom,
just vanishes.
Yeah, like,
but to go back to rock bottom, right? And waiting, and you know how I feel about it. Waiting for rock bottom is waiting for death, right? Like that's in my mind. This day and age, things have changed so much since that book was written that we almost like that particular statement and anything to do with rock bottom really gets under my skin because we're waiting for death.
Yeah,
that's what
I agree.
Right?
I agree. I think that the evolution of recovery itself is speaks to that. I mean, look at the fucking death toll, man. I mean, it's everywhere. Right. I mean, we're not talking about Lower Mainland or Thailand. We're talking about everywhere.
Literally,
so,
everywhere.
I agree.
In every major city, like death rates are, whatever.
And so this is
nothing has killed more people outside of war and plague ever than the opioid, like in human history. You know what I mean, right? Like that's the same thing. That's addiction.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's just more people now than it was before, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
hundreds of thousands of people in a year worldwide. Over 100,000 in North America. Every year for now, what, 4 or 5, 10 years? I don't know how long that they've cracked the 100,000 mark. Right. So
and yet the population is still increasing at a dramatic rate. Or 7.8 billion now? Is that where we are?
I still I remember 4. I remember 4 being the number, right? It wasn't that long ago, right? If I remembered, it wasn't that long ago.
We're almost at 8.
So, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy, right?
But
anyway, but back to the point, right?
The point is that So first of all, I want to say that's why I said I'm glad to be alive.
Yeah.
Because it was a low bottom.
Yeah.
That maybe not as low as I did make the choice to do something about it. And so you're right, there was that, but I needed that. I could not make that decision without the space and clarity I needed that I got in that jail cell.
Yeah. Well, there's a mandated argument right there, right? I mean, that's part of that. Dude, part of that is right.
Broke that fucking takeover. It was like the exorcism, fucking. Wait, what is it? Christ compels you.
The power of Christ compels you. Yes.
No, it was, and that's what it felt like. Like I just went missing for 5 years, and so now I'm in this really raw, emotional, heavy, fucking hard part of my life, but I feel like me again. And if I didn't have all of these other circumstances that are out of my control happening, I'd be really excited about the next step. You know what I mean? And if I didn't get put in that jail cell, I probably would have went home and did it again next weekend. You know what I mean?
Said all the things and whatever. And who's to say you can't? That's the thing of fiction now, right? The past.
It is, and it's a speculation, but just based on how blind I was to what was happening in my life, and there wasn't even moments of clarity. It was just a constant in the back of my mind saying, "You're fucked. This is going bad." You know what I mean? Once in a while I'd pop through, but it just instantly no, I'm not hearing you. I'm right back.
Yeah, well, that's we have a great way to fucking deal with feelings we don't want to feel, right? That's right. That's an addict thing, So,
and I'm not a fucking daily drinker or user. That's the acute part. Is it happens. It sets itself up in a way that looks normal, and that's the insidious nature of it because it just over time corrodes. At least the chronic, it's chronic alcoholism is you're punched in the face. That's your relapse. Whereas acute is more like getting a virus. You know what I mean? That just kind of stays with you and slowly, it's like Lyme disease, slowly takes you down. And so I can't say gifted. I've been cursed with acute, at least chronic. It's bam, and back into rehab. Or,
it's just so different. It's better or worse aren't the worst words. It's just,
It's just
No,
so
circling
different.
back to that, right? Yeah. But hey, listen, Brian,
Yeah.
we've cracked
Oh,
the hour
shit.
mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, that happened
Wow.
fast, right?
Yeah.
Fuck, for the first 20 minutes, I was like, oh, how are we going to get an hour out of this? It's boring shit. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Ah, yeah, come on. Arrogant. You got arrogant Ryan on here. Lots to say.
No, I'm kidding. Listen, that brings us to my favorite part of the show, and that's the daily gratitudes. And I know they're tough for you these days, but I'm going to keep pulling them out of you. So what you got?
Well, life. I'm glad to be alive, first and foremost.
Yeah.
I'm super grateful for the people that showed up. And like I've lost friends through this, certainly.
Of course you have.
And that sucks. Man, it really sucks. But I want to seek to understand. I want to stay in that space. So I'm really grateful for that saying these days. Like, I'm grateful for humility as much as it's kicking my ass. And my little fucking girls and Marina, like, I will always be grateful for them. Always. They are and continue to be my why. And that's just never going to change with me. And now it's like I have an opportunity to break that transgenerational cycle, and I have an opportunity to deliver a really healthy and peaceful childhood for my kids. And I have the opportunity for them to never see me screwed up again. Cammy's case, she'll never remember, but I'm I'm looking forward to passing on to the next realm, having accomplished those things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
That's, I mean, and I'll let you do I'm grateful to be back on the show, as well, and in a space that I can do so. I think it's gonna be a little bit different, moving forward.
Typically different is a good thing, really, right? If you're, historically, right? Every time
I just think it's going to be a lot more honest,
which is
from my end.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's everything right with it, though. So,
yeah.
Myself, I'm very grateful to have you back on the show. I'm grateful for your life. I'm grateful that you made it through. Right? I like this version of you, buddy. I do. I shouldn't even mention it right now because I'm already emotional, but Devin.
Me too.
I'm going to bring him up again. Randomly, in the last week, 3 separate people who do not have a connection to the show have had a connection to Devin, and it's come back to me through the platform. Most recently, Angie from FAR, the executive director, was doing some peer-to-peer work with a lady who was speaking about Devin and how he had helped her son so much. Right, and she's wrestling with whether or not to let him know what's happened because he's back in early recovery and at a recovery house. And I was sitting there thinking that, and we've talked about this, and it's certainly Jason and I did in the episode that'll be released later this week or next week. But the amount of people that man's life touched, you'll never be able to quantify that, right? Like it just never. And it made me.
Sorry.
It made me think that if I spend the rest of my waking hours for the rest of my life, and I can trying to make a difference, and I can make a fraction of the difference that Devin made, I will be a success. Right? So, yeah, I think his memory is going to go a long way. Right? So,
yeah, and the last couple of years, that was my closest friend.
Yeah, right.
One of them for sure, and that's my support network was him.
Yeah.
He's the guy who took a week off work to fucking stay with me on his couch while I cried and cried and cried.
Yeah. World's missed a good one there.
I'm still pretty raw about it all, and we get so much death that comes across, but this one's just so much different for me.
Yeah, it sure is. Imagine for people like yourself and the people closest to them. Listen, I'm also grateful to every single person who continues to watch, comment, share, do the things that you do. You know what you got to do. Every time you do these things, you're getting me a little bit closer to live my best life. My best life is to make a humble living, spreading the message. And the message is this: if you're in active addiction right now, today could be the day. Today could be the day that you start that journey. Reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member, call into detox, pray, go to church. I don't care. Do whatever you got to do. Get that journey started. If you have a loved one who's suffering an addiction right now, you're just taking the time to listen to this episode. Just take 1 more minute out of your day and text that person. Let them know they're loved. Use the words.
You are loved.
That little glimmer of hope just might be the thing that brings them back. Tried to cut that off.